In 2006, a Cambridge University professor named Ken Dark and his archaeological team visited Nazareth. Their goal was to research Nazareth's history as a Christian pilgrimage center. However, they are surprised. Beneath the present-day monastery of the Sisters of Nazareth lies a startling secret. Beneath the ruins of this ancient church lies a house, but not just any house. It is believed to have been the home of Jesus himself as a child. Although the archaeological site was discovered centuries ago, there are actually millennia-old legends that the area was home to the historical Jesus. A 7th century pilgrim narrative entitled De Locis Sanctis states that there is a house with a courtyard below this area, a house that is believed to have been Jesus' home in Nazareth. During the Byzantine era, a church was built on the house. It was later rebuilt by the Crusaders. Then, in the 17th century, another church was built here, this time by the Franciscan order. It was not until the 1880s that archaeological excavations began on the site. The results were not delayed. Intriguing archaeological finds were unearthed, including walls and vaults from the Crusader period, a Byzantine cave church and tombs from the Roman period, in addition to numerous artifacts and structures carved or built on the rocks. However, no professional or large-scale excavations were conducted at the site until 2006. The Nazareth Archaeological Project, in which Professor Dark was involved, revealed that the house found dates back to at least the 1st century AD, around the time Jesus lived in Nazareth. In addition, interesting details of the building have been noted, including that it was masterfully carved into the rocky hillside, indicating that whoever made it must have had a great knowledge of stone working. That is, someone like the so-called tektons. Tekton is the Greek word used for craftsmen, artisans, carpenters, builders, and carvers, which Josephus actually was. It is impressive that this house still exists under the layers of the old church and monastery. It is as if they were built as a sanctuary and as a way to protect the holy place. Although Professor Dark cannot confirm that this was indeed the home of Jesus due to lack of evidence, he notes, "It is probably the closest we will ever get to being able to reasonably assume that it was." While the search for Jesus' home continues, did you know that many of the places mentioned in the Bible still exist today? In close proximity to the supposed house of Jesus, we find the Church of St. Joseph, or the Church of the Nurturing, which is named after St. Joseph, husband of the Virgin Mary. The modest, but historically and religiously significant site is believed to have been erected on what was once Joseph's carpentry workshop. You may wonder why it is also called the Church of Education. In fact, this is the name that was originally given to the church, and it has to do with the fact that Jesus was raised on this site as a child and grew into a man. Just 300 feet from there is the Basilica of the Annunciation. As the name implies, this is where the angel Gabriel announced to the Virgin Mary that she would conceive and give birth to Jesus Christ. On the lower level is the Grotto of Annunciation itself. In addition to the Church of St. Joseph and the Basilica of the Annunciation, there are many other sacred biblical sites in the city, including the Well of Mary, where legend has it Gabriel appeared to her, the Church of Mensa Christi, which contains a large rectangular limestone block believed to have been used by Jesus and his disciples, and Mount Precipice, where the devil tempted Jesus. Perhaps one of the most interesting things is the Jesus Trail, which is a 40-mile route connecting many sites associated with the Messiah. It stretches from Nazareth to Capernaum and is probably the best trail you can follow if you want to retrace Jesus' steps while he was in Galilee. After Nazareth, another important biblical site associated with Jesus' life is Bethlehem. Located 6 miles from Jerusalem, Bethlehem today is a modern city that lies on the west bank of Palestine. Like Nazareth, the city has many shrines and churches dedicated to places believed to have been associated with Jesus Christ himself. The Church of the Nativity, for example, is believed to be the place where Jesus was born. Today's Milk Cave Church is said to be the place where the Virgin Mary cared for the infant Jesus during their flight due to the murder of the innocents. Jesus grew up and set out to spread the word of God. He goes to Capernaum, where he stays for a long time. It is there that he chooses Peter, Andrew, and Matthew as his disciples. At the time of Jesus, Capernaum was an administrative center, outpost, and garrison town. It was also a thriving fishing village on the northern Sea of Galilee. Here, Jesus performed many miracles and taught in a synagogue. Recent archaeological discoveries point to a particular area where St. Peter's home may have been. Like St. Joseph's workshop, a church was built on this site in the 5th century, which seems to serve as a marker that this particular place was sacred. The next point is Galilee. As a place, it is mentioned frequently in the Bible, especially in the New Testament. Galilee is a region located in present-day northern Israel and southern Lebanon. The Sea of Galilee, where Jesus walked on water, is an important landmark in the area. Flowing through the Sea of Galilee into the Dead Sea is the Jordan River, where John the Baptist baptized Jesus. Today, the river continues to be a site for baptisms. To the west of Galilee is Mount Tabor, another important place in the Bible. This is where the transfiguration of Christ took place. In the Old Testament, especially in the books of Judges and Joshua, Mount Tabor is the site of the battle between the Israelites and the Canaanites. But perhaps most of all, Jerusalem is considered the most sacred and significant city. It is where Jesus was brought as a child to be presented in the temple. It is also the city where he performed miracles, healed the sick, and preached. Finally, this is where he makes the ultimate sacrifice for mankind. However, the significance of Jerusalem extends to other religions as well. After all, this 5,000-year-old city has witnessed many important events in the history of the 3 Abrahamic religions: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Here are some of the most important biblical sites in Jerusalem. The Temple Mount, a holy place from before the time of Jesus. This ancient complex witnessed many biblical events, including the presentation of Christ as an infant. It is also the place where Abraham built an altar to sacrifice Isaac, and the place where King David chose to build God's temple. Western Wall. It is the only surviving part of the outer wall of the first and second temples, and is located in the Old City of Jerusalem. The Garden of Gethsemane. This is the garden where Jesus prayed before his crucifixion. It is located at the foot of the Mount of Olives, the highest point in East Jerusalem. Calvary and the Church of the Resurrection, Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This is the place where Christ was crucified, buried, and subsequently resurrected. The first Church of the Holy Sepulchre is also located there. Many important places mentioned in the Bible still exist today in Jerusalem, either partially or as converted places of worship. And now we turn our gaze to the oldest active capital in the world, Damascus. It serves as the political center of Syria. In the Bible, Damascus is known as the place where Paul met Jesus face to face and, after experiencing a vision, became one of Christ's most fervent apostles. In addition to being the site of Paul's conversion, Damascus is also mentioned in the book of Amos. According to the first 2 chapters of Amos, God condemned Damascus for its cruelty to the city of Gilead. Damascus attacks Gilead, which is Israel's territory, and slaughters almost everyone. The city is mentioned in other parts of the Bible, including Isaiah. Another city that Paul of Tarsus goes to and preaches is Corinth. Aphrodite, the Hellenistic goddess of love and beauty, was highly regarded there. This beautiful ancient city earned the nickname City of Sin because of its immoral reputation due to the temple sexuality practiced. In the temple of Aphrodite, there were women called hierodules, literally sacred slave girls, who practiced ritual sexuality as part of their worship of the goddess. Thanks to the efforts of St. Paul, many Corinthians converted to Christianity. So far, we have focused primarily on the cities specifically mentioned in the New Testament. But what about those places that existed in the Old Testament era? Well, you will be surprised to hear that many of these biblical places, ancient as they are, still exist today. Did you know that Jericho, one of the oldest cities in the world with a mind-boggling 11,000-year history, still exists today? It is located on the west bank of the Jordan River in Palestine and is mentioned several times in the Bible. In particular, it was the first city attacked by the Israelites led by Joshua after they crossed the Jordan River. The city is also known as Tel es-Sultan, with more than 20,000 people living there today. A detailed video about this ancient city can be found on our channel. The story of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah and how Lot's family for the most part survived is one of the most famous and instructive stories in the Bible. Particularly memorable is the moment with his wife, who, having fled the burning city, yet eventually turned back to see their home, and, as we know, turned into a pillar of salt. What if we told you that some researchers believe they have found proof of this grim event? A strange man-like pillar of salt has been found in Jordan, and not anywhere but on Mount Sodom. This rock formation is part of the wall of one of the longest salt caves ever discovered. Scientists have naturally given it the entirely appropriate name, Lot's woman. Of course, there's no direct evidence to confirm that this was indeed Lot's wife, but that doesn't stop the site from attracting plenty of travelers and explorers. If you want to know more about the history of Sodom and Gomorrah, you'll find a detailed video on our channel. Surely the ancient city of Nineveh no longer exists, but the ruins of what was once the largest city in the world can still be visited today, thanks to archaeological excavations carried out over the past centuries. In the Bible, Nineveh is the sin city to which God sends Jonah to preach. It was once the capital of the Assyrian Empire. Today, the ruins of Nineveh can be found near the city of Mosul, on the east bank of the Tigris River, in Iraq. Now that we've looked at some of the still existing biblical sites mentioned in the Old Testament, let's take a leap forward, away to the end of time. The book of Revelation, which prophesies the second coming of Christ, was written by John of Patmos. According to the Bible, it was here that John received the vision of the end of the world and its renewal. Patmos is a Greek island in the Aegean Sea. Because of its connection with the book of Revelation, it is known today as the Island of the Apocalypse. And as for the end of time, according to prophecy, the final battle between the forces of Christ and the devil will take place in Megiddo, a real existing place located between northern and southern Israel. Tel Megiddo is an ancient city in northern Israel, located 15 miles east of the Mediterranean Sea. Today, it is a national park managed by the Israeli government and is open to visits by tourists. As you learned, many biblical sites still exist today, although there are many that have not yet been discovered, such as the Garden of Eden and the Tower of Babel. But besides places, there are also fateful events and artifacts mentioned in the Bible. Here's which ones we were able to confirm. To find out, click on the video to the left.